You might not have heard about the Beatles submarine, or probably you happened to stumble upon it somewhere on the internet or a friend casually mentioned it. Whichever one it is, the Beatles' Yellow Submarine is a British-made film that shook the world in its time and was full of fun and delight for children, and even the adults were not left out. It has spanned a lot of generations and shaped pop culture. It inspired animated movies like Toy Story and Shrek. So in today's video, we are going to talk about the Beatles' Yellow Submarine effect on pop culture. Do stay with me till the end of the video to learn more about it. The film is a 1968 animated jukebox musical comedy adventure film that was inspired by Beatles band music, directed by animation producer George Tunning, and produced by United Artists and King Features Syndicate. The initial reports from the press were that the Beatles themselves would be the ones providing voices for their characters in the film, but unfortunately, apart from performing the songs, the real Beatles only participated in the closing scene of the film with their cartoon counterparts acting by other voiceover artists and actors. The Beatles' music was used as the soundtrack for this film, and the band has always produced songs that have intergenerational appeal. This funny little film was directed by George Dunning and pulled off the trick of simultaneously appealing to both kids and their parents. The film tells the story of a very peaceful and colorful fantasy country full of bandstands and gardens, about 80,000 leagues beneath the sea. Music was the order of the day in Pepperland, as the name was called and the rhythms of songs were always mixing with the scenery. But just as there will always be good, the bad would always coexist. So one day, some bad fellas from another country, who were known as Blue Meanies, invaded Pepperland. They couldn't bear the joy, beauty, happiness, and even the music of the happy people of Pepperland and decided to turn them all into stones. But fortunately enough, one of the inhabitants of the country, who was popularly known as Old Fred, managed to escape by an act of providence. He was able to flee into a yellow submarine and journeyed till he got to Liverpool, where he sought out and enlisted the help of the Beatles. Together, they journeyed back and survived numerous life-threatening ordeals like metaphysical seas, the Sea of Time, the Sea of Holes, until they made it to Pepperland. Once they got there, they dressed up as, yes, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, and together they unfreeze the people of Pepperland, and even the Blue Meanies were not left out, as they melt their cold hearts with music by singing All You Need Is Love. The Beatles' Yellow Submarine colored pop culture in several ways. Some of them include religion. It was not long after the film made it to the United States that submarine churches started popping up and attracted urban young people. Most of these churches adopted the outline of a yellow submarine with a small cross on its periscope as their symbol, and along with it, they displayed peace signs, flowers, and other popular emblems of the 1960s. The churches were already more than enough within 1 year of the film being released into the market that they started what was referred to as the Submarine Church Press, which published a national directory of about 40 of those churches, most of which were mainline Protestants or with Catholic roots, and held a 3-day rap session or conference in Kansas City, Missouri. Their attendant usually varies and attends from different parts of the United States, such as New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago, St. Louis, and Akron, Ohio. According to the storyline of the film, the submarine was referred to as a place they loved one another in a groovy way, and it was from that they got the energy and strength to fight the Blue Meanies. Reverend Tony Nugent, a former co-pastor of one of such submarine churches that were in Berkeley, California, told the New York Times in 1970, "It also shows that a church has to have flexibility and maneuverability." A lot of these submarine churches had some of the weirdest and unusual names for a church, such as Alice's Restaurant, Ecstatic Umbrella, and Now Church, and were known for their equally offbeat practices. Some of the churches evolved from existing congregations, while others started from scratch and were independent. Apart from within the church walls, they routinely met in parks, basements, and college plazas, and they staged elaborate protest-themed stunts. One Christmas, Alice's Restaurant sent a couple and a donkey in search of lodging in a local hotel to lodge them like it was the biblical tale of Joseph and Mary searching for an inn in Bethlehem. And fortunately, they got it. Some also adopted the refrain of John Lennon's song All You Need Is Love, which was clearly spelled out in mod-style letters across the op-art landscape of the film. Some of these churches also borrowed the fashion sense of the film, with Reverend Richard York of the Free Church of Berkeley, a submarine church with ties to the Episcopal Church, wearing a flowing robe of pink, yellow, green, and gold that looked like it was ripped out from one of the film's far-out backgrounds for his ordination in 1968. The bishop who performed his ordination wore a plain white cassock. Although it may sound a bit ironic, none of the musicians were religious or practiced any well-known religion. In fact, according to Paul McCartney, a songwriter and musician who gained worldwide fame with the Beatles, for whom he played bass guitar and shared primary songwriting and lead vocal duties with John Lennon, none of the Beatles believed in God. Promoting love. According to Hector Avalos, a religious studies professor at Iowa State University, who has written so many times about the Beatles and religions, the Beatles viewed love and peace as the highest values in living a good life. He also went further to saying that living a good life was not about salvation or following the Bible. That emphasis on love erased all the isms that John Lennon specifically hated. John Lennon was the founder, co-songwriter, and co-lead vocalist and rhythm guitarist of the Beatles. The plot of the film also depicts an epic battle between good, the peaceful and music-loving people of Pepperland, and evil, the music-hating people of Blue Meanies, who turned the living people of Pepperland into gray stones. And with their music, the Beatles came and defeated the Blue Meanies and restored life to the people of Pepperland who were turned into stones, showing that people should be tolerant and learn to understand one another, and how they can use their power of music to promote love anywhere they are. Animation. Another area Beatles' Yellow Submarine colored pop culture is the area of animation through its high level of humor throughout the 89-minute animated film. Although its joyful music scenes were intended at first for children, most of the English scenes of humor were the kind of stuff only adults can understand and relate to. The producers made use of a psychedelic universe as a backdrop, which worked magic. Composed of several short films with each scenery more surreal than the previous one, The Sea of Holes, The Sea of Time, The Kaleidoscope Kingdom of Pepperland. The film presented itself as soon as it was released as a masterpiece of animation with its colorful universe, its amazing game of scales and shapes for its avant-garde technical work, and became one of the pioneers of rotoscoping, a technique that involves tracing over motion picture footage, frame by frame, with the aim of recreating it in animation. Several notable figures such as John Lasseter, the director of Toy Story, and Josh Weinstein, screenwriter for The Simpsons, have praised and acknowledged Yellow Submarine as paving the way for the majority of the greatest animated successes of today, from South Park to Shrek. The film also successfully depicts the imagery of the London art scene of the 1960s, capturing even the atmospheric pollution of the period. There have been a lot of books written about this iconic film, with countless digital reissues of the film circulated with several new commentaries and additional features coupled with new generations, each getting curious vantages of the legendary quartet's outputs such as t-shirts, bags, toys, and even a Lego set of the titular submersible. Although several decades have passed since it was released, the masterpiece of music, animation, and humor has gone down as one of the most iconic movies in the history of pop culture that celebrated life, culture, and music, and promoted love across continents and different age groups. What are your thoughts on today's video? Please let us know in the comment section below. And if by now you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any of our incredible videos. Keep an eye out for the next video. Bye for now.